This is where the fun begins.
Hi everyone, this is OG Star Wars, your Legends girl trying to make it in the DisCanon world, and today I want to talk about or discuss the latest news regarding Han Solo in the Disney Lucasfilm canon or lore. And we already know the direction that, they've been taking these characters, right? And how we see Luke being the opposite of what George intended him to be, the sage, the hero, recreating the new Jedi Order, all of that. And so now, with Leia, she's now a general and they can't make up their mind which way they want to take her as a Jedi or not. And then we know Han as the deadbeat dad. So now this news here, and I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger here. Now this news here from, this is reported by Screen Rant, and it comes from a comic as well. Let me get this out of the way. It comes from the comic 12, I believe, and I'll get to that information here pretty soon. But Screen Rant by Kevin Erdman, and basically the title is Star Wars confirms Han Solo was never a true smuggler. Now, what the hell is a true smuggler? Anyways, we are going to find out here. So recent Star Wars comics from Marvel continues to prove that Han Solo was never a true smuggler. He's always been a hero and a rebel from the start. So when you see Han Solo in A New Hope, it's all an act. It's all an act. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say. And so this is one scene from one of their comics here. And it says, warning, spoilers ahead for Star Wars number 12, a Star Wars Bounty Hunters number 10. In recent Star Wars comics from Marvel, the argument that Han Solo was never a true smuggler in the galaxy gets even stronger. So I didn't know that was an argument. I always knew that he was a smuggler. I always knew that he was conflicted, that we've seen his hero's journey in the OT from going from selfish to selfless and finding love and becoming a family man. Well, Han might have played the part and wanted to pretend he was a scoundrel who only cared about himself and his next payday. That just wasn't the case. Deep down, Solo is a rebel and a hero, regardless of any test and denials he might have strongly given during the original trilogy era film. So basically, they're retconning that. They're saying he was just putting on an act. Now, how do you guys think about that? So what do you guys think about it? Not how, but what. But anyways, let me get back to this. In the recent release, Star Wars number 12 from writer Charles Soule, with art from Ramon Rosanas, Princess Leia is thinking about Han, wanting nothing more than to get him back from the clutches of Boba Fett. So this is in between, 5 and 6. After the events of The Empire Strikes Back. That makes sense considering she gets confused. She just confesses her love to him. She shares with Kes Dameron. So that's Poe Dameron's dad, if you did not know. So now we have these new characters more involved. When we see Shadows of the Empire, it was still, the Han, or not Han, but Lando, Luke, and Leia, Chewie, and of course the droids who are, trying to rescue Han, locate him, rescue him, what have you. She shares with Kes Dameron about the moments when she starts to honestly care about Han, which was after he saved their secret base on Hoth from exploding while the rest of the Alliance was forced to evacuate. It was then that Leia knew that while Han played up being a smuggler because he liked the persona and flair that came with it, he was a rebel and inspiring her deep down to his core, which is why he stayed. For all his posturing, he genuinely believes in the rebel cause. All right, so basically, if you've read the EU and if you read the Han Solo trilogy, and then you also read, any other stories developing like about Han within the OT era, he was a smuggler. He was very ish, but he still had a heart of gold. And even in Han Solo trilogy, he was found and raised in a crime syndicate. Basically, he was a thief, he was a smuggler. He learned all these bad habits and all like this criminal, I guess you could say, life. You know, and then but he secretly wanted a family, and that's what's stated inside the trilogy. He secretly wanted a family, and so he had that conflict within. And so we begin his arc there, but without even thinking about the EU on Han, you basically see his hero's arc of his conflict as well. He is a smuggler. He wants to pay off his debt to Jabba. He has morals. And what's this is basically saying that if you're a smuggler, you don't have morals or something. No, we see other smugglers in the EU who are, have heart of gold, but they still are shrewd in the business. So I'm going to scroll down and we'll talk about that some more. All right. Funny enough, in recent Bounty Hunters number 10 from Ethan Sack, with the art by Paolo Vanilli. Oh, I butchered that, sorry. Initially doubles down on the idea that Solo, due to the cyborg hunter by alert Valance, it's thanks to Solo ignoring Imperial protocol in their shared past as cadets. So basically that Valance basically was a cadet with Han and is even a cyborg to begin with. So I guess he has cybernetics, kind of like Vader did and stuff, and not a corpse. As a result, Valance would become in debt to Solo, and the present has seen Valance sticking his neck out for a rebel cell, seeking to pay his debt to Han for saving his life all the years ago. So there's a little history there. I haven't looked into that whatsoever, but there's that history right there that Han, convinced him, to the rebel cause, I guess, even though he was an Imperial cadet. In the original lore, we see Han, his morals, he wasn't a xenophobic or anything. And, he was raised by Duella. I think that's her name, the Wookiee under, that raised him and cared for him and taught him and made sure he was cared for in the crime syndicate and stuff. So because he had that relationship with her, she, seeing Chewie being treated the way he was, he basically, stunned his commander and rescued Chewie and stuff. And that's how their relationship starts. And that's in a nutshell. I'm not getting into too much detail with that. And so that's how they began. But they really didn't fully get into the Rebel Alliance until Bria Theron, and which he meets when he goes hiatus and discovers her in a cult. So again, I'm not going into too much details with this. And so you end up inspiring Valance to possibly believe in a cause as well. And so here it is. I guess this is Valance right here. And he's all, damn you, Solo. You were the one who told me to stay away from causes. What did you get me into? So here we go. There's a little bit more insight with that. Despite Han's words, his actions speak volumes about who he truly is, and it's not a genuine smuggler. Again, okay, so let's break this down here. We know in the EU some well-noted smugglers like Talon Card and Booster Terror that had morals and they had standards, even though they're smugglers. And nowhere it doesn't even state that smugglers have to be ruthless, villains, evil, all of that to be a smuggler. And so to say because he is mostly good and has a kind heart, he couldn't be a smuggler, that does not make sense, because we see in the lore, like Booster Terror, he basically raised Wedge after Wedge's families were killed by pirates, and then we have Talon Card, who, basically cares so much about the organization that he set up, that he cares about his employees and stuff like that, that works under him. even though he smuggles information and he's an information broker, still he has, morals and virtues and stuff. Even though he doesn't want to line up with the New Republic or anything, he still has, that heart of gold and does what's right. So are we saying now, according to this, that when we look back at the original lore, that they're not considered smugglers too? So so at least not how most smugglers would act. And I would again say that smugglers come in very different shapes, size, forms, what have you. Whether it's going back to the Death Star to help Luke, making sure Princess Leia is safe, or even offering his ship to Lando to use in the battle to destroy the second battle station. Solo is much more of a true rebel and hero than he'd ever let on. It also goes back to when Han was first starting his career in Solo, a Star Wars story, when he was trying to make it as a smuggler and outlaw, despite his wishes to be the sort of person his first love, Kira, knew. What Leia later discovered after Hoth, Han Solo is ultimately a good guy. So what do you guys think about that? That he was ultimately a good guy. When we see him again in the original lore, when he, meets up with Bria Theron, he gets into her cause. He does. And they make a deal, and it's still about smuggling. She makes a deal with him about some stuff that they need. And she basically turned her back on him and gave it to the New Republic, which, made him, less trusting of women in a sense. So I thought that was a good little arc right there. And so again, he was conflicted. And when we see him in the OT, he basically was conflicted. And we see his hero's arc go from, again, selfish, unsure of himself, cocky, scoundrel, to even kind of a ladies' man in a sense, to someone who became selfless. And, even Luke started bringing that out. So it wasn't him bringing that out himself. It was seeing the actions of Luke and the action of Leia and other people, and realizing that when growing up, because he lost his parents, because he was orphaned at an early age and he lost his parents, he wanted to have his own family. And this was his opportunity. So we see growth. So if this guy is set up already to have this heart of gold and not necessarily a smuggler, and I put these in quotations, then how is he going to grow in the OT as we know him? So it doesn't make sense. And so these two new issues help to further establish Solo's character in the Star Wars galaxy, as they both provided even more examples of moments where Han was the furthest thing from a smuggler looking out for himself and was instead the ideal rebel, hero, and good guy. So again, we have this here. Smugglers don't necessarily have to look out for themselves. As I stated before, we had Booster Tarek. I gave an example, Talon Card, and those are the ones that he immediately knew of, like when we get into Thrawn Trilogy and all of that, and everybody's familiar with. So I'm just going to throw their names out there. And yes, smugglers worry about their business. They get contracts with what they need to smuggle from other people, other opportunities. They worry about the business. However, if they have an organization like Talon Card, then, they have their employees to worry about. And, again, everybody's, different in how they handle it. And we see that in Star Wars, but they have morals as well. They aren't just ruthless, villainous, selfish, to a point where they just look out for number one, so we have this here. And even Han, when he was smuggling for Jabba, he wanted to make sure that he cut ties and paid him. And that was one reason why he was trying to leave, in A New Hope. And that was another reason why he was trying to leave in Empire Strikes Back, is because he wanted to make sure that he cut ties, that he paid the debt that he owed from, the lost cargo when he had to get rid of the spice during the Kessel Run. And I'm talking about the original lore, not this Solo, a Star Wars stories deal. And so he wanted to make sure that was because he wanted to rid himself from that. So again, This is further destroying the continuity ties from George Lucas's movies when it comes to one of his main characters. All right. So while he could certainly play the part of the man he thought he wanted to be, it seems as though Han Solo can't help but be a hero, which is pretty entertaining. Is a pretty entertaining character dynamic, all things considered. Again, this deconstructs the Han Solo from the movies. Not talking about the EU right now, just the movies, because he's selfish. He's thinking about himself. He really doesn't want nothing to do with Obi-Wan and Luke in A New Hope. In fact, they had to give him a really good deal because he had to pay back Jabba. And that's what he was worried about, himself. When they get inside the Death Star, he didn't want to rescue Leia. He wanted to, take care of what business that he thought they were there. And that's it, until Luke said, she has a lot of money. So again, and, smugglers, again, like I said, can have morals. And, they too, the Empire too, can be their enemy as well. So they will act accordingly, that what benefits them as well. And so here you go. We have this here. And I just want to let you want to know what you guys think about this revelation with Han Solo in Disney Lucasfilm. Mind you, the EU does it better. Han Solo's character arc is fleshed out more. He learns about, his family. He learns about Thrak and Sal Solo. We see him with, was it Shrike? I believe that's his name, the one that picked him up and basically kept the secret of his identity from him until Dulana told him about the Wookiee that raised him. And, all he knew is smuggling, and he also knew racing, so he did that too as well. And, and part of him, because he didn't have a family, he wanted a family, and that was the main structure as well. And but all he knew about was taking care of him. He went through some rough relationships before we seen him with Leia, or with in A New Hope and all that, with Luke and Leia and all of them. And we started seeing him evolve and his character arc transform into what we get by Return of the Jedi, when he realizes and he opens up to relationships, to friendships, to being selfless and all of that. And then we get past that and we have him eventually marrying Leia. They have kids and stuff, and he sticks by her side, through thick and thin. Even when they lose Chewie, Leia has much love and compassion for him and let him mourn on his own and stuff, while he, hates the universe or the galaxy and the Vong for, and, even, stuck in a turmoil against his own son, Anakin Solo. And so we see all that. But despite what Leia and Han had to go through, they still were together. They were still tightly knit until we get into the new lore, where that's deconstructed. All he thinks about is himself. So if they're setting him up to be this good guy all the way through until he gets towards the sequel trilogy, this is what you call digression of character. So basically he goes from this heart of gold, not necessarily a smuggler, to we see him in A New Hope, where he's really, a secret hero in disguise, which he evolved into that eventually. He evolved into that. And then once we get towards the sequel trilogy, he gives up on his family. He gives up on everybody. He's a deadbeat dad. All he thinks about himself. So we go from him thinking about himself, even though he wants family, being raised in a crime syndicate, what have you, to evolving into a selfless character with morals and stuff like that, and still a smuggler, and now a family man, a dedicated husband, dedicated friend, all that. We see Disney do the opposite. So there you go. And so let me know what you guys think below in the comments. Let's create a conversation about this. Who do you rather prefer? Original Han from George Lucas era of Star Wars, where we see him, go through his hero's journey and evolve into what we see past Return of the Jedi? Or do you like the Han that goes from this secret good guy that was really never a smuggler, evolve into this selfish man who gives up on his family and his son and all that? So thank you so much, you guys, for watching. I thought I'd report this as well. And again, may the force be with you. And you guys have a good evening, day, or night, wherever you guys are. And I shall chat with you guys later.